What I'm about to share with you may change the way you see your body, your mind, and even time itself. For decades, we were told that renewal requires suffering, that to regenerate, to cleanse, to reverse aging, you must restrict, deprive, endure, fasting for days, battling hunger, fighting discomfort. But what if the doorway to cellular renewal has been hidden in something you've done over 20,000 times today? Breathing, not casual breathing, not the unconscious rhythm that keeps you alive, but deliberate breath, measured, intentional, ancient, and now, unexpectedly, validated by modern science. Stay with me, because this is not just about oxygen. This is about awakening a dormant biological intelligence that has been waiting quietly inside you since birth. In 2016, the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine was awarded to Yoshinori Ohsumi for his groundbreaking work on autophagy, the body's internal recycling system. Autophagy is the process through which your cells clean out damaged components, recycle dysfunctional proteins, and renew themselves from within. It is your built-in regeneration program. It protects against neurodegeneration. It supports metabolic health. It slows certain aging processes. And for years, the dominant belief was simple. To activate autophagy, you must fast, not for a few hours, but for days, 3 days, sometimes longer. The message spread quickly. No food, only water. Endure the discomfort. Push through the hunger. That is the price of renewal. But what if fasting was only part of the story? What if the real trigger was never the absence of food, but the perception of metabolic stress? Here is where things become fascinating. Your body does not respond merely to what you eat. It responds to signals. It responds to internal states. It responds to oxygen levels, carbon dioxide levels, nervous system balance, and perceived environmental pressure. And research from institutions like MIT and Stanford has begun exploring something extraordinary: specific breathing patterns, particularly those inspired by ancient Tibetan practices, can activate molecular pathways associated with autophagy, without fasting, without supplements, without deprivation. How? Through controlled, brief, intentional hypoxia, a mild, temporary reduction in oxygen combined with increased carbon dioxide tolerance. It sounds counterintuitive, but physiology tells us something remarkable. When you extend your exhale, when you hold your breath briefly in a structured way, carbon dioxide levels rise slightly in the bloodstream. This triggers the Bohr effect, a well-established physiological phenomenon in which increased CO2 improves oxygen delivery to tissues. At the same time, the body interprets the shift as a signal of temporary scarcity, and scarcity, at the cellular level, activates adaptation. One of the key players here is AMPK, a metabolic master switch that senses low energy states and initiates repair processes. When AMPK rises, another pathway called mTOR, associated with growth and resource consumption, is temporarily suppressed. Repair mode replaces growth mode. Cleanup replaces accumulation. Renewal replaces noise. This is the same shift prolonged fasting aims to produce, but here, it is induced through breath. Now pause for a moment. Before laboratories, before genetic sequencing, before metabolic panels, high in the Himalayan mountains, Tibetan monks practiced a breathing method known as tummo, the inner fire. Isolated from modern science, enduring extreme cold, these practitioners discovered that through rhythmic breathing and specific breath retentions, they could generate internal heat, alter physiological states, and enter profound mental clarity. Western observers once dismissed this as mysticism, but later research revealed measurable increases in body temperature, altered brainwave activity, and remarkable nervous system regulation during these practices. What they called inner fire, neuroscience might describe as controlled sympathetic activation, followed by parasympathetic dominance. What they described as burning impurities, cellular biology might describe as stress-induced autophagy, and mitochondrial adaptation. Different language, same phenomenon. And here is where the story deepens. Breath does not only influence your cells, it influences your mind. During controlled breath retention, especially after extended exhalation, the brain enters a unique state. Mild metabolic stress enhances neuroplasticity. The brain becomes temporarily more adaptable, more receptive to new connections. Think of metal placed into fire. For a moment, it becomes moldable. Then it cools into a new form. During these breathing peaks, your brain is more plastic, more open, more rewritable. Now consider this carefully. Autophagy removes what is damaged. Neuroplasticity strengthens what is repeated. So during these windows, what you focus on matters. If your mind is filled with fear, resentment, or chronic stress patterns, those circuits can be reinforced. But if you cultivate clarity, gratitude, purpose, forgiveness, those pathways become prioritized. Breath becomes not only a cleansing mechanism, but a sculpting tool. You are not just cleaning your cells, you are reorganizing your identity. Let me guide you through the structure that research has explored, adapted safely and accessibly. First phase, preparation, 2 minutes. Sit upright, spine tall but relaxed, shoulders soft, eyes gently closed or unfocused. Breathe naturally at first. Signal safety to your nervous system. When the parasympathetic system activates, your body exits survival mode and enters restoration mode. Without this step, the deeper phases lose coherence. Second phase, the rhythmic cycle. Inhale through the nose for 5 seconds. Hold gently for 5 seconds. Exhale slowly through the nose for 10 seconds. 5, 5, 10. The elongated exhale is critical. It increases carbon dioxide tolerance and shifts the autonomic balance toward vagal activation, the vagus nerve being central to calm, digestion, repair, and emotional regulation. Continue this cycle for 3 to 4 minutes. You may begin to feel warmth, stillness, heightened awareness. This is the body recalibrating. Third phase, the release. After your final slow exhale, gently empty the lungs and hold without air, comfortably, never forcing. Perhaps 30 to 60 seconds, depending on your capacity. This is the peak adaptation signal, a brief, controlled stress that triggers resilience pathways. When you inhale again, allow it to be slow, smooth, unhurried. 7 minutes total. No deprivation, no punishment, just breath. Over time, consistent practice may support mitochondrial efficiency, metabolic flexibility, and cognitive clarity. But there is something deeper than biology happening here. For most of your life, breath has been automatic, unnoticed, background. But when breath becomes conscious, identity shifts. You move from reactive to deliberate, from scattered to centered, from mechanical to aware. The monks described this state as purification. Modern neuroscience calls it state-dependent learning and neuroplasticity. But the lived experience feels simpler. You feel clearer, lighter, less entangled in mental noise. And this clarity compounds. 7 minutes per day. 7 minutes to reset inflammation signals. 7 minutes to recalibrate stress responses. 7 minutes to remind your body it is not under attack. The modern world bombards you with stimuli, screens, alerts, deadlines, artificial light, constant input. Your nervous system rarely fully settles. Chronic low-level stress suppresses repair pathways. When the body believes it is constantly under threat, growth and survival dominate over maintenance and regeneration. Breath interrupts that narrative. It tells your biology, we are safe enough to heal. There is something quietly radical about this. You do not need to escape to a monastery. You do not need to starve yourself. You do not need extreme rituals. You need awareness and discipline. 7 minutes of silence, 7 minutes of structured breath, 7 minutes of deliberate presence. Now let me ask you something gently. When was the last time you truly felt your breath? Not in a panic, not during exercise, but as a conscious act of alignment? Breath is the only autonomic function you can voluntarily control. It is the bridge between unconscious biology and conscious choice. Through breath, You can influence heart rate variability, stress hormones, blood chemistry, and even gene expression patterns over time. Epigenetics teaches us that genes are not rigid destiny. They are responsive. Environment shapes expression. And your internal environment, your emotional and physiological state, is part of that environment. When you breathe deliberately, you alter that internal climate. You become less reactive, more resilient, more intentional, and something else begins to shift. Your relationship with aging. Aging is not only time, it is accumulated stress without adequate repair. It is oxidative damage without sufficient cleanup. It is inflammation without resolution. Autophagy addresses part of that equation. So does nervous system balance. So does metabolic flexibility. Breath touches all three. But this is not a miracle cure. It is not immortality. It is alignment. Alignment between stimulus and recovery, between effort and restoration, between activity and stillness. And in that alignment, the body remembers how to care for itself. I want you to imagine something. Imagine that instead of rushing from one obligation to another, you pause each day for 7 minutes. You sit, you breathe, you let your exhale lengthen. You let your nervous system soften. You hold briefly in stillness. And during that stillness, instead of replaying stress, you choose one clear intention: clarity, health, compassion, focus. You let that state imprint while your brain is most plastic. Day after day, week after week, who would you become? What habits would dissolve? What patterns would weaken? What capacities would strengthen? Breath is not dramatic. It is quiet, but quiet changes accumulate. Over months, consistent breathwork can improve heart rate variability, a marker associated with longevity and emotional regulation. It can reduce baseline stress, improve focus, enhance recovery, and perhaps most importantly, it reminds you that transformation does not always require intensity. Sometimes it requires precision. The monks called it inner fire. Scientists call it metabolic adaptation. You may simply call it practice. But beneath the terminology lies a simple truth. Your body is not your enemy. It is intelligent. It responds to signals. And breath is one of the most powerful signals you can consciously send. There was a morning not long ago when my mind felt clouded. Not dramatic, not catastrophic, just heavy, distracted, unfocused. Instead of reaching for stimulation, I sat. 7 minutes. 5-second inhale, 5-second hold, 10-second exhale. The noise softened. The edges of thought became less jagged. Nothing mystical, just coherence returning. And in that clarity, decisions became simpler. That is the subtle power here. Not spectacle, not extremes, but steady recalibration. Now the real question is not, does this work? The physiology is clear. The real question is, will you make space for it? Because once you understand that your breath can influence your cellular cleanup, your nervous system balance, your cognitive plasticity, you can no longer claim helplessness. The key has been with you since your first cry. You carried it into every room. You ignored it. And now you are remembering it. So here is my invitation. For the next 30 days, commit to 7 minutes daily. No more, no less. Structure it, protect it, treat it as non-negotiable. And during the peak breath retention, choose consciously what kind of mind you are reinforcing. Do not force positivity. Choose authenticity. Choose steadiness. Choose awareness. If this message resonated with you, if something inside you felt both challenged and empowered, then anchor that shift right now. Like this video. Leave a comment below saying, I breathe with intention, not for me, for you, as a declaration. Subscribe if you want to continue exploring the intersection of ancient wisdom and modern science, where physiology meets consciousness and practice meets transformation. And before you leave, look at the 2 videos appearing beside this one. One explores how stress reshapes your biology over time and how to reverse it. The other goes deeper into neuroplasticity and identity reconstruction. Choose not out of curiosity alone, but out of commitment. Because after today, breathing is no longer automatic. It is intentional. And once breath becomes intentional, change becomes inevitable.